Primary election night right here in Maryland, but it's unlike any we've ever had before. With limited polling centers, some waited in line for hours tonight to cast their ballots. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Ritter.
And I'm Vic Carter. Some voters were in line more than 2 hours after the polls closed tonight. What that means is that we may be a long time before we get any complete results.
Absolutely. This is the first statewide election conducted mostly by mail, the primary being held in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic.
One of the races that has been decided, Maryland's presidential primary race. Joe Biden has won the Democratic presidential primary, and Donald Trump wins the state's Republican presidential primary.
And the Associated Press has also called the congressional 1st District race in favor of Republican incumbent Representative Andy Harris. Now, he will run against one of the 3 Democratic challengers, Maya Mason, Allison Galbraith, or Jennifer Pingley.
WJZ is live right now. Rachel Menitoff with what it's been like for people voting tonight. Rachel.
Vic and Rick, good evening. As you mentioned, we are still awaiting many of the results of this primary election because some polls closed late due to large voter turnout at a limited number of polling locations. Some people waited well into the night to cast their ballots. We did take some video of people waiting in line around 9:30, 9:40 outside of Northwood Elementary School on Loch Raven Boulevard. So this particular polling location closed about 2 hours after the 8 o'clock deadline. And we know that some of the closer races, like the Baltimore mayoral race, could take a couple of days to call. Voters will have to wait a little bit longer to learn who will be Baltimore's next mayor.
This is the first time we've been able to interact in person with voters since February, basically, right? And this is a very unique situation.
This year's primary was delayed 5 weeks because of concerns about coronavirus transmission.
From an encouraging standpoint, the fact that people are standing in line and are waiting 2 hours to vote, that shows how much people were involved in the process.
I'm excited to see the participation that I saw today, and I think that it means we care about this city and we want things to get better.
More than 88,000 city voters sent in their ballots by mail this year. Even so, the lines to vote in person at any one of the 6 city polling locations stretched out the door and around the corner in many instances. And you can see just how long the line is outside of Edmondson High School. Many people we've talked to say they never received their ballot in the mail, and officials say that's partly because of problems with out-of-state printers.
We all did not get our ballots in the mail.
In the midst of a global pandemic and nationwide demonstrations calling for police reform, voters like Hubert Lake say he's looking for someone to now unify Baltimore City.
I do believe we need a coming together and reason with each other, the government and the citizens, the first responders, the law officers and everything. We need to work together instead of against each other.
Election officials expect a larger turnout than the previous presidential primary, which was 45% here in Baltimore City.
I know I'm casting a ballot for what I hope is change.
And some polling locations remained open well past the 8 o'clock deadline so that everyone in line had a chance to cast his or her ballot. And that's why we're seeing a delay in the results. We also know that it could take a couple of days to see the results of some of the closer, tighter races, like the Baltimore mayoral race. Officials still have to count ballots that were postmarked today, June 2nd, and they have until June 12th to do that. We're live in Baltimore tonight. I'm Rachel Menitoff for WJZ.